Floppy Knights follows the story of Phoebe and her hyper-intelligent robot arm named Carlton. She is an inventor, and her latest creation are the eponymous Floppy Knights. These digital creations help her beat up goblins, stop volcanoes from erupting, beat up a monstrous tree that's shooting out fog, and try to win science fair competitions with never-ending violence. Using a smartly crafted and well-balanced card combat grid-based system, is this Day 1 Game Pass release worth a download? Yes, if you have a lot of patience. Allow me to explain why in the XboxEra review of Floppy Knights. Throughout your time in the game, you'll be working through a few slow-to-animate and load menus as you build up various decks that best suit each level's unique challenge. This game requires a ton of patience, as it is not only quite difficult at times, but everything is rather slow-moving. Each deck has a similar setup with a captain at the top, who, if they are defeated, ends the round. A handful of must-be-in-this-deck cards, and then a choice of however you would like to set up the remaining empty slots until you have a maximum of 30. As you progress through the game's 27 story and 24 challenge missions, the amount of choice you have over just what your deck can be is staggeringly dense. There are multiple decks to unlock throughout the campaign, which you can then take into those challenge levels, which are even more difficult to try and complete. Just what are these decks though, and how does this game play? The decks are a collection of character, movement, buff, and attack cards that come in a massive variety. Those characters span a vast selection of plant, monster, and goblin types with various focuses on melee, ranged, and support characters. You will need to learn what each of your characters can do to find the proper combination for the more challenging levels, or you will slam your head against the wall time and time again. I did that, spending nearly 3 hours trying to beat a mission with my favorite plant deck, only to win on my first try with a monster-themed one that was all about taking damage and building up my attack stats. Each character in your deck has a different set of stats, such as how much damage they deal, how far away a target must be for them to attack, how many grid tiles they can move per movement card played, and their total health and armor levels. Again, I cannot overstate just how much you need to read and remember in this incredibly defensive-minded game. Your captain can go down in a single turn quite easily if you put them in too much danger. Everything is turn-based, with the player character typically going first. There's a wide variety of different mechanics that are introduced and built upon as the well-written narrative goes along. This game is quite deliberately paced, and that includes how you are expected to play if you want to win. There are a few scenarios that dictate aggression, but overall every turn needs you to focus on keeping your cards alive, or else you can become quickly overwhelmed and lose 30 plus minutes of progress, because this game has no checkpoints during its very long matches. And that ultimately was my biggest frustration with Floppy Knights, its lack of respect for my time. As it is turn-based, you must sit and watch as the computer takes its turn each time, and it's rarely fast. Nothing in the game is, from the menu loading to the fact that if your captain dies at any point of a match, even ones that can take 45 minutes to an hour, you lose and have to restart all the way from scratch. The game is tough, and learning the right deck for a match can take a little while, so this can end up being incredibly frustrating, as the matches are simply too long sometimes as you're learning them, and in one of the toughest end-of-level missions, I ended up spending that over 3 hours, finally beating it in a match that took me 55 minutes. One of the best things about a game like this is jumping in for a quick session, but Floppy Knights isn't designed like that. If you're doing something new, you need to be ready to truly commit yourself to it, or rely on Quick Resume with the Xbox Series consoles. There are a lot of positives to this game, though. Through the use of monster spawners on the playing field, the game is designed to keep you on your toes and not be overly aggressive. Every few turns, a new monster will pop up and start heading toward your team. Finding combos to instantly take them out when possible was quite fun and really made me vary up my tactics. Floppy Knights has a lot of really smart ideas and I found it well balanced overall. That mission length was far more frustrating than figuring out the best way to beat each mission. and the various decks play so differently that I never grew tired of the seemingly basic gameplay. The energy system will be familiar for fans of the deck building genre, though this one's not a roguelike. You've got a set deck, but there are no random elements for each run. Just a straight narrative with levels that behave the same every single time. The controls, though, did take a little getting used to before I felt comfortable. You will be using the left bumper and your triggers a lot to jump between the board and your hand. And remember that you must choose a card and then use it on the character, then click on the board where you want them to go or attack, and that still gets me, even as I've started clearing through the challenge section. I pressed the wrong buttons a lot, and it took me a while to learn exactly how the range system on attacks works, but I'm pretty sure that was more my fault as the game's tutorial is really good. The main mechanic is that you click a card in your hand, click the character on the board that you want it to affect. If it's an attack card, the board will gain red lines on squares at which the character can attack, set by their range stat. If it's a movement one, then white tiles are shown and you can click them to indicate where you would like to move that character. Buffs or heals will be used instantly, and all of this is dictated by the energy system. Each card has a set energy cost, and you begin each turn with a set energy amount. Some cards can return energy to you, and so on. It's all pretty standard for the genre if you've played almost any other deck building game, of which Game Pass has many excellent ones. The music is pretty good, but it's really energetic and loud, so I ended up turning it down to about a quarter of the max level in the settings. Writing is, as previously noted, quite good, with some genuinely funny lines mixed in. I didn't find the narrative too engaging overall, but it was just enough to keep me going. I quite like the graphical style of things, especially the various ridiculous faces that Carlton makes depending on what he's saying, but technically it's pretty basic. I also didn't run into any bugs at all during my playthrough on a Series X, and a patch from the devs promised to fix up most of the balancing issues I had noted during my playthrough, and that's coming day one at launch. In conclusion, Floppy Knights is a very fun game that is close to being a great one. Its major flaw for me is how long everything takes, from mission length to waiting on enemy turns, and the very slow loading of the menu system can be a drag. If you are able to get past all that though, there is a very clever deck builder here, with a real challenge, great writing, solid music, and it's available day one on Xbox Game Pass. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps, and if you visit patreon.com/XboxEra, you can help even more. We'll see you next time.